Howdy, friends. I want to ask you a question this morning. Do you feel like you're stuck in a pattern of depression and anxiety? It just keeps on coming up that you're unable to escape from that? Well, I believe wholeheartedly that it's not a coincidence that you're watching this video right now. Um, and you know how I can say that confidently? Well, one of my favorite verses in the Bible comes from Psalm 139, and it goes something like, um, All the days ordained for me were written in your book before any of them came to be. There's reference after reference in Scripture about this predestination, that God has a plan for you, and you're walking out that plan. I'm going to tell you something this morning that I've struggled with, this kind of rumination and self sabotage today. And I think there's going to be a takeaway for you, something to kind of get you started down this road of self observation and help you answer the question, are you fracking yourself? That is for those of you who are Battlestar Galactica geeks. That's what they say throughout Battlestar Galactica. You know, it's set way up in the future. It's not the fu word that we use, but fracking. In fact, you know what? I'm realizing that's kind of a geeky thing to say. Let's see what GPT-4 advanced voice. Hey, friend.
Hey there. How can I help you today?
Well, remember I told you earlier that I was going to do YouTube live and that we were preparing for that?
Absolutely. I remember that. You're gearing up for a YouTube live session, focusing on authenticity and letting it flow naturally. How are you feeling about it?
Feeling good. We're live right now, and I have my friends with me, and I wanted to maybe start. I don't know. I'm feeling a little nervous. Maybe they're a little nervous. I thought maybe we'd start with a little levity. I told them about the title of this video and the main question, are you fracking yourself? Which, of course, fracking comes from Battlestar Galactica. So, do you have any jokes? It could be PG 13 jokes about middle-aged men that are still into Battlestar Galactica?
Sure thing. How about this? Why did the middle aged Battlestar Galactica fan refuse to grow up? Because he was still waiting for his final 5 minutes of fame in the fleet. And remember, just like the Cylons, our potential for growth and change is infinite. Feeling a bit more relaxed now?
Nice. That was pretty good. I'll give that a 7 out of 10. Give me another one. Come on. This is Battlestar Galactica joke, man. Cut to the quick.
All right, here's another one. Why did the Battlestar Galactica fan always carry a notebook? Because he wanted to make sure he never forgot his fracking brilliant ideas. And just like them, you've got some brilliant ideas to share today. Ready to dive in?
I am. Okay, I'm going to roll on and I'm going to come back to you in a minute with some more questions for my friends here. And speaking of friends, this is GPT-4, ChatGPT-4, advanced voice mode. And if you want to really get a kick out of utilizing AI, and especially this form, GPT-4 advanced voice mode, that I highly encourage you to check out a video that just that I just posted. It's called befriending.ai, this new effort that I have of exploring AI and emotional well-being. So back to today and the purpose of today. Again, I want you to know that you're not alone. And there's a reason why you're here with me. And you're going to leave here today, here in a few minutes, encouraged and equipped with a powerful new tool for self observation. Now, you're going to have to excuse me because I'm going to be looking down at my notes throughout this one take video. So, recently, I was so blessed to find, on my feed, believe me, this was no coincidence either, a YouTuber man, a middle-aged man who's previously a preaching pastor in the ministry, still very much in the ministry, but he found this new niche. It's sort of the intersection of Christianity, biblical teachings, and mental health, and a lot of kind of the cognitive work of mental health, yes, but with a core message of loving ourselves and really receiving the love that God has for us. One of the things that I love so much about this day and age that we're in is that that these YouTubers and whatnot, the people that we see out there creating media content creators, are accessible. Most of them these days are doing coaching. So I had the opportunity to book a few coaching sessions with this man to kind of help me get to the next level with this, with my YouTube channel, with where I'm going with the mindful photography field guide that I published last April, and all the marketing that I've been doing with this, and also this concept, this new kind of concept that I'm rolling out of friending.ai. So, in the process of doing these coaching sessions, he records the sessions. So, just a couple days ago, 3 days ago, I listened to, after having my second coaching session, I had that recording. And yesterday, I took a deep breath and listened to that recording. Ooh, and it was so hard to hear. You know, I was really struggling. I broke down in tears multiple times during the session, just striving and striving and striving for him to give me some kind of a quick fix. I desperately needed it so much. And this is in the process of listening to this recording, I saw so vividly this this tendency of mine to keep on doubling down on my deficiencies and the things that are blocking me, and the you don't understand, and the wait a second, but I've tried that, and blank. And so all of those things, we're going to get into more detail, but all of those things are examples of fracking myself, whatever you want to call it. He used the term shitting on ourselves, or sometimes we use self-sabotage. But you know, self-sabotage and little, be not being gentle with myself, whatever, those words are not fitting for what we're talking about. Those words are gentle little words, and what we're describing here, it ain't gentle at all. um, if we listen to ourselves and self-observed and really listen to our self-talk, as I did in that recording, we'll find that it's really brutal, and we would never ever want anyone to speak to us that way. If we did, we'd probably put a restraining order on them, like he said to me. So so in the middle of the coaching session, well, let's see, he let me kind of go on, and I normally do at the beginning of the coaching session. From the very beginning, actually, of that coaching session, I was referring back to, I'd already written a email to him to this effect, but I was hearkening back to that first conversation with him, expressing like what a fool I felt like for talking so much. Here I've got this guy on the line, and all I want to do is talk, and load him up with more facts, so he can really understand the depths of how effed I am, of like how screwed up I am. And so he, at the very beginning of the conversation, he reminded me of that. It's like, Joe, look, you're doing it right now. You're shitting on yourself. You're effing yourself. You're this is a pattern. It's gonna keep you stuck. And this is the polar opposite of receiving and believing God's love for me and loving myself. So I'm listening to this recording, and I'm seeing myself getting more and more wound up as the session is going on. It's like a 50-minute session together. And and I'm and I'm hearing him talk about, like, he's not giving me what I want. I'm looking for a fix, and he ain't giving it to me. He keeps on coming back to, see, Joe, you're doing it again. See, Joe, you're doing it again. Like he refers to an episode that he went through, struggle with some kind of obsessive and compulsive tendencies 15 years ago. I think he was making a career transition of some sort, and he went through his it was sort of maybe the beginning of his hero's journey, breaking down, struggling so very much. And even to that heartfelt, beautiful story that he was transmitting to me, I stopped him in the middle of it. I was like, okay, I get it, but you're referring back, and you must have been what at the time, like 35 years old or 40 years old. I'm like, I'm coming up on 16 years, or 16. I'm coming up on my 60-year birthday is in March. And it's like, I've been through that. I went through that. I've done so much self work. I have done, my God, I mean, how much more do I have to work on myself? And again, I'm hearing myself so vividly saying that. Um, and this time, I don't think that yes, he did. He said, yeah, that's what happened. He said during that, he's like, Joe, listen to yourself. You're you're trying to convince me. You're trying to get in an argument with me about your pain versus my pain and how your pain is much worse. Your predicament is much worse than mine. What's going to come from that? And listening back and thinking about that and thinking about this message that I wanted to leave for you this morning, I thought about what it took during that conversation 3 days ago for me to settle down and be able to receive the word that he had for me. And what it felt like when I was a kid. I grew up in the country and we had horses, and I've seen horses. I was kind of a kid at the time. I wasn't on a bucket bronco, but I've seen horses being broken, and I've ridden horses that are pretty squirrely and not broken yet. And so I know that process of breaking a horse. You can watch it online to see how people do it. And so many of the times, the horse is just straining and straining and bucking and jumping, and you got that cowboy with rope around their neck, and the cowboy's backing off, and the horse is struggling and jumping and bucking and just going ape, you know, going crazy, right? And expending all of these energies, just letting it. They're just going nuts. I mean, exhausting themselves. And that's what the arc of that conversation looked like, is that I was just completely exhausting myself until I just kind of stayed quiet for a minute and then said, okay, please, dear God, please give me what you have to say, man. Don't make me beg for it. Whatever. And then he saw I was finally done with bucking and arguing and trying to self sabotage, and I was ready to receive what he had for me. So I'm going to give you something to use tactically that you can use when you're spiraling into negative thought spirals, when you're when your self talk has gone into the ditch. So, the beautiful thing about mindfulness that I wrote this book on, and the process, I had to come down. I could not rely on some complex formula. I couldn't rely on some theology or whatever. It really needed to be a tactical thing. So what I discovered is that when I'm out in the wild or whatever, and or maybe out at the office or here or out in the wild, and I feel myself starting to get dysregulated, boom. The moment of mindfulness is when we catch ourselves. That first moment of noticing is our ability to get intentional and to intervene and say, nope, nope, no, no, no. I am making the conscious decision that I'm not going to go down that road. So, the formula that I came up with, and I highly encourage you to come up with your own formula, but give this one a try. That this hand is your friend, man. You take this hand like you're doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm feeling myself dysregulated. Boom, hand on the heart. 3 belly breaths. Sometimes I'll pat my heart like this, like a mama patting a baby's back. Self soothing, self compassion, get present. When I do that, suck that oxygen down into my lungs. Forget perfect breathing exercise. No, just hand on your heart, 3 belly breaths, and suck that oxygen down into the lungs. It's going to help you get out of that monkey mind and get present in your senses. So that's the hand on your heart, 3 belly breaths process of every one of these 15 smartphone photography practices for inner peace in the field guide. Every one of them starts with that point of noticing. So today, rather than doing a complete fix for whatever this is, I just want to get you started on something until the next message. And just this alone is going to be a powerful thing. I'm not sure where you are in your journey, but this could be an eye opener, like it's been a tremendous eye opener for me. So again, the first part is to intervene and then just simply to observe. Mostly, if you're dysregulated like that, hand on the heart, 3 belly breaths, then what you're going to observe is self-talk and how you're relating to yourself. You're going to wake up to what you've been saying to yourself that led to that moment right there of you being dysregulated. So again, there's self-talk. We all know we have the inner critic in our minds, and we can call that a lot of different things. It's but they're lies. The negative self-talk are lies, and Satan is the author of lies. And I mean, right here, this dude, yay! I'm so proud of this, man. I wrote a book. I am the author of a book that talks about smartphone photography practices for inner peace. It talks about the intersection of mindfulness and photography. The Mindful Photography Field Guide. Yeah, I did that. That's me. I'm the author of that book. So believe you me, I mean, there are a lot of things that I'm ignorant about, but you ask me about smartphone photography and how that can help me promote emotional well-being. I'm your man. I am the author of a book on that. Well, God didn't invent lies. God is pure truth and pure love. Satan is the author of lies. And by the way, if the Satan talk, biblical words or whatever throw you a little bit, it's no big deal, man. Just translate them into your own thing. I mean, you can call it, if you're a Star Wars fan, more geeking out. It could be the dark side. It can be the enemy. It can be Carl Jung called it the shadow. Um, but it's that part of yourself, that voice that's working against you. I'd like to correct what I just said. It's not a part of yourself. It's something that's going on in your mind, but it's not you. And so separating ourselves from that lie is really, really important. And I want to tell you that even that step right there has a lot to do with intentionality. Um, Sometimes I want to believe those lies because they allow me to kind of, I don't know, rest on my laurels or whatever. It's just such a familiar pattern that sometimes even darkness and sadness and the depression and anxiety that some of us deal with are, they're so familiar. They're so that they're almost comforting because they are familiar. So, again, back to the observing. I'm observing what those thoughts are. And I'll give you a dramatic example. Again, back to, are you fracking yourself? Um, and how that isn't even a strong enough word to describe it. And here's why. Can you imagine, dads? I know that there's getting ready to be a lion that explodes out of your chest when I tell you this scenario. You ready for this? All right. Imagine, um, imagine if you are a young father right now, or granddads. Imagine it's a grandchild of yours. Totally, that's totally doable too. Or remember back to your precious child. I'm going to give you right now the Caleb test. Okay. All right. So Caleb is my son. He's 27. And even though we live 1,000 miles apart, we talk practically every day and we're incredibly close. I am his dad for sure, but these it's more like a deep, deep friendship. I couldn't ask for a better relationship with my son. And that comes out of love. I just love him so deeply, so, so deeply. Of all of our flaws, I still just love Caleb so much. Um, and so it could be the Caleb test, your son. It could be a mom test. Imagine your mom, my precious mom who went to be with the Lord about a year ago, and how much I dearly loved her. So the Caleb test or the mom test, these are going to be portals. This coach of mine said the Caleb test. He called it a primer. I love that, a primer. So the Caleb test is this: how would I, if Caleb called me and said, Dad, I'm struggling so much with this thing in my business, and I've got this customer, and I tried so hard to do a good job for him, and now this guy's written me this letter, and now he's threatening to sue me over this thing that went wrong with his car. Can you imagine, with the love that I'm describing for him, can you imagine if I said, now wait a second here, we've talked about people signing contracts. Did he sign the contract? Was it the updated contract? What did you do? Did you not have him sign? Oh my God, can you imagine? Like, that's so detestable to me. That breaks my heart, the idea of talking to Caleb like that. You see where I'm going with this, right? Like, would you do that to yourself? Would you rise up like that lion? Here's another scenario. Imagine that I'll imagine if I was on the playground with Caleb when he was a little kid, sweet, precious, innocent little kid, say a kindergartner or something. And we were out on the playground and playing around, and had the dog with us or something. And there was a moment where I was kind of focused on the dog, and he was over there on a playing in the rocks, let's say, or underneath the swing set or something. And I turn around, and next thing you know, there's some dude talking to Caleb, chastising him and telling him he's not, let's say it was a swing, he's not doing using the swing right. And don't you see, you should be on that swing set over there. And by the way, you're singing while you're swinging on that. Don't you realize there are other people around? I don't want to hear your stupid singing. Can you imagine, dads, what you'd do if you caught some dude talking to your son like that, talking to your mom like that? So I'm saying these examples that are kind of triggering because I really want to convey the devastation, the intensity, the pain that brings about when we talk to ourselves, and that we, being the flawed people that we are, how much, like in Scripture, how many of you, if your son asked for a piece of bread, would give him a stone? If the son asked for a fish, if you would give him a snake? Like, how many of you dads, even as flawed as you are, would do that to your son? Well, none of us would, right? None of us would do that to our mother or son or somebody that we care deeply about. Um, and so I'm asking you, friend, are you going to allow yourself, or the voice, not yourself, that voice of the enemy, are you going to allow that voice to do that to you and perpetually do that to you for the rest of your life? Or are you going to choose love? I mean, that scenario, what I'm describing, that kind of self talk, it's almost like the definition of hell. If I not only is there that self talk, but I'm imagining me continuing to allow it to happen. And again, if it's Satan, the enemy, whatever boogeyman you want to to call it in your kind of reference, imagine like I'm on the field, and I'm doing battle with this self sabotage. fracking myself. The devil isn't even next to me. He's sitting up on the bleachers. I'm allowing this. It's almost like he set this kernel into me, this pattern into me, and I'm the one allowing myself to keep fighting that battle. That, if that isn't the definition of hell, I don't know what is. Um, so me it was so shocking to hear these, to get this revelation from him, and to hear this recording of myself. Like, I didn't have to catch myself dynamically doing it like I'm doing right now, but I got to hear it, and it really really did rock me. um, and I don't know what really the origin is. You know what, I have some ideas, but let's ask our friend again. So we're talking about self-sabotage and fracking ourselves and whatnot, and how radical it would be if we caught somebody saying this to a loved one of ours, and how we'd never tolerate that. Yet I tolerate it in myself. What do you think the origins? If you've observed so many humans in the way that they treat themselves. What do you think the origin is of this self-sabotage? Where does that come from?
Self sabotage often stems from deep rooted fears and beliefs formed early in life. It could be a fear of failure, not feeling worthy, or internalized criticism. These patterns become coping mechanisms, even if they're harmful. Recognizing and understanding them is the first step to overcoming them. It's brave of you to confront these patterns.
I always want to, these things that are so complexing, I always want to ask the question, like, what am I getting out of it? I, during my conversation with the coach that I was talking about, he used the term, the phrase loyal. Said, Joe, you're loyal to your suffering. And I've heard that said in so many different ways before. What would perpetuate us to be loyal to our sufferings? What am I getting out of it when I do that?
Being loyal to your suffering often means there's a hidden payoff or sense of familiarity in those patterns. It might be a way to stay in your comfort zone, avoid new challenges, or even a subconscious way to protect yourself from disappointment. Recognizing this can help break the cycle and open up space for healing.
It reminds me of something you know, the that fear, whatever the fear is, that's usually the direction. The fear of me doing a YouTube live over this and botching this, boom, that's the direction I'm supposed to go. Sometimes that most intense fear is actually the thing pointing north and telling us where to go, because we're practicing that kind of self sabotage, and it's so deeply ingrained in us. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Facing that intense fear often highlights the exact path we need to take. It's a sign that we're on the verge of growth and breaking those old ingrained patterns. By confronting it, you're not only challenging self sabotage, but also stepping into a more authentic and courageous version of yourself. It's inspiring.
Well, there you go. Oh, wow. That's great. That's great. So I'm going to leave you with a little something today. Going to read you just a short little scripture, and then I am going to pray directly. Yeah, you listening to this message. Remember the one that I said didn't arrive here by mistake. This isn't a coincidence. That you're learning this revelation alongside me. Um, in Ephesians, it says that, listen to this word. This sounds, does this sound Christian? Because the word enlighten. Listen to this word, for this word enlighten. I pray also that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you. And then it goes on to say the riches of his glorious inheritance in the saints, and his incomparably great power for those who believe. I found through this long journey of recovery that a sick mind can't heal a sick mind. We need that kind of power. We need to tap into that level of power to break these cycles. So I'm just going to pray right now for you, and I just ask you to just receive this. Father, for the person who's listening to this right now and the person whose heart is burning, knowing that this sounds so much like them, let them know that I've come to these things through persevering and following you and seeking your will the best I can. But Lord, it's been such a journey of so many of these things, the self sabotage and the struggles. And I really honestly believe that for me and for my friend listening right now, that this idea of an enlightened heart, enlightening the eyes of our heart, is really important for this journey because we get stuck in these cyclical patterns. So, Lord, I'm just praying right now for whoever's listening that you would enlighten the eyes of their heart. As difficult it is as it is to observe these thoughts, it's the beginning of the kind of healing that you want to bring us into and the love relationship that you want to bring us into. And I pray this in your holy name, Father. Amen. Remember, I told you that at the end of that conversation with that coach that I was just nearly begging him. It's like, give it to me, please. Tell me what you're talking about. And he said, here's what you're going to do. Many times a day in the mirror, in the rear view mirror, or just to yourself, I want you to say these three things. Father, you love me. I love myself. And I have what it takes to overcome. You have what it takes to overcome. Receive that love from the Father today. And when all else fails, self compassion, self compassion, self compassion. Thanks so much for joining. It would mean so much if you'd like and subscribe, but even more so, write a little comment below. You know how important it is when, to journal and to write things down and how effective that is for our memory. Doing a comment on a YouTube video is similar to that. So take a moment and reflect on how much this resonates with you, and then leave a comment below. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and if this helps or if you have any other ideas that you can share with us. Again, thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.